lounging, son.
Welcome back to the Comic Lounge. My name is Ryan, and today I am back again with the weekly reads. I think only one of these books I mentioned last week as one of the books I was going to talk about, which was Inferno, #1. I switched it up. I got Deathstroke Inc. #1, Locke Key, Sandman, Hell and Gone, the conclusion of that, and Batman vs. Bigby, A Wolf in Gotham. So, again, you'll notice I'm doing the overhead view over the books because Dylan is still on his hiatus. Hopefully he comes back soon, but, as long as schedule permits, I will still, talk about the weekly books that I like. And if I can't, then I'll have something else post in place of this. But as of right now, I'm still able to get this done. So let's jump into Batman versus Bigby first. Talk about that a little bit. Anybody that's been following the channel, knows that we talked about Fables. Dylan and I read the whole series, and this is the start of the return of Fables, which is super exciting. Not the greatest entry point if you're new to Fables, but it's a cool jump back into this world, leading up to the return of Fables, which is going to start right back at its old numbering when it comes back. We got Bill Willingham, Bill Level, Jay Leisten, and Lee Larridge as the creative team for this book. You'll notice off top, this Robin looks different. So this is definitely not tied in, and it's Black Label, so it's definitely not tied into the overall continuity of DC, even though nothing really matters in terms of continuity with DC anymore. Everything kind of counts. Got a different version of Gotham City. There's killings going on. And Batman and his crew are kind of trying to figure out who it is. They're obviously calling it a Wolfman, which kind of leans into the fact that maybe Bigby is a part of it, but I doubt that he is. He's watching over Batman and Robin, and just your typical kind of detective story with Batman, but we, with the Fable spin, noticed that there's, different authors. I'm assuming what would be like J.D. Salinger. And they're in this library. They're obviously from different time periods. It seems like, to me at least, they have a whole mysterious operation going on here. I won't spoil anything, but I also, like I said, it's a different Gotham, right? We get Batman, different costume, but he has multiple Robins, so I'm not quite sure if this is Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, who it is, but that is Stephanie Brown. I'm kind of glad that it's not tied into the, main continuity, that it's its own thing, so that it doesn't really affect anything, and we still get to use the characters, which makes complete sense in my opinion, because Fables was all about fairy tale characters, made up characters from all different types of genres, and they were thrust into our world because of a war that happened. I won't get too much into that. If you haven't read it, I highly suggest getting them. They have the new compendiums coming out. We also have gone through the entire series, so all those episodes are available to listen to on the channel. But I think it's interesting that they dipped back in with this instead of just straight going into Fables, because Fables has been gone for a little while. This feels kind of more like a Batman story, even though we have some other stuff going on throughout. It's definitely a lot being given to us in terms of information. I won't get too into that, but it definitely intrigued me and made me want to come back. And obviously, being a huge Fables fan, there was no way I was going to not pick this book up. We got Commissioner Gordon. We have a new character, Lieutenant Molly Grace, who's the lead detective on the Wolf homicides. So it'll be interesting to see where this goes from here, because obviously I highly doubt it could be Bigby. But without a doubt, they are saying that there's fur left at the crime scene, stuff like that. So it's definitely laying enough seeds to where it could be Bigby. Maybe he lost control, kind of like he had done in the Fable series at certain points. But I don't think that that's the route they'll go. And I'm wondering if maybe this might even lead further into what we'll get when Fables comes back. Pretty crazy that Batman, he had known that he was being trailed by Bigby. And Bigby even saying he's impressed because he never thought, he would have sworn nothing mortal or Monday could have ever snuck up on him. And Bigby's definitely never faced a foe quite like Batman. And just where we leave off, he's been taken and taken to the Batcave. So it'll be. I'm definitely fucking intrigued to see where this goes. Definitely, if you are a fan of Fables, pick this up. I know there's Batman fans that pick up every single Batman book, so maybe this will be their segue into Fables. Maybe you want to learn more and check out the series. I've read the series multiple times now, and it is by far one of the best Vertigo series of all time and one of my favorite series of all time. And it gets better every time you read it. So go pick up Fables. Definitely check this book out and be on the lookout for the Return of Fables when that makes its return. I think it's coming back in 2022. Next up, we're going to talk about another DC book. We got Deathstroke Inc. This is the Adam Hughes cover. I'm not a sucker for Adam Hughes covers, but I do love Black Canary, so she took the center stage on this one, and I had to make sure I got this cover. Her and Deathstroke teaming up. Something that may, at first glance, seem kind of weird, but I am here for it. I love Deathstroke. We get, just in this one page, a brief rundown of Deathstroke's history, going all the way back to when he first was injected with the serum, different points throughout his timeline, and who he faced off against, calling back to certain key storylines. So that's pretty cool. And we have this new organization called Trust, which stands for the Transparent Researchers United for Strategy and Technology. And they have recruited Black Canary and Deathstroke, both for different reasons, to take down Hive. So quickly, I'll read the credits. We got Joshua Williamson as the writer, Howard Porter on art, Hi-Fi colors, Steve Wants is the letterer. So, if you follow me, I'm a huge Joshua Williamson fan. I will read any book with his name on it. He's going to be taking over Batman, which I'm super stoked on. His Flash run is awesome. His indie stuff is dope. Birthright, Ghosted, Nailbiter. Just a phenomenal writer. And you just finished up Infinite Frontier, which we talked about on the channel. He's got this coming out. He's got Robin coming out, which is really dope. And Batman just nonstop. I mean, he's pretty much the guy at DC right now. So I'll follow him to any project. And this one is, in my opinion, a really great first issue. Gives you everything that you need to kind of get you engaged and leave you wanting more. So we even got the Toyman 2.0, Hiro Okamura. He's a part of Trust. Dinah's undercover. We have a Batmobile coming in the. We have a Batmobile showing up on the scene, and we have Toyman saying, "What Batman tech you're going to use next?" One of the mecha suits. Batman had so many, and then gets cut off, and we see that it's Deathstroke jumping out of the thing, and he says, "No, he'll use one of his toys." Action is great in here. The art is phenomenal. Love how they have Deathstroke up above and the lights. I think that's a cool little effect. Dinah makes her debut pulling off the black wig. We've got Black Canary. I'm really loving the way they're utilizing lettering to showcase the names stuff. We get a little backstory on why Deathstroke decided to do sign up with Trust. He's kind of been, he toes the line. Sometimes he's a villain. Sometimes he tries to be more heroic. He's definitely got a body count that is nothing to scoff at. Definitely one of my favorite villain, anti-hero, whatever he's been over the past few years. I absolutely love him. And Black Canary, probably my favorite female character in DC, right next to Catwoman and Lois Lane. That's like my trifecta of the female characters in DCU. But, it's interesting, like Dinah calls him out on it. The banter between the two of them is really funny. Throughout, we get a little bit of a flashback, to Slade's life, the breakup of his family. And it's something that Williamson really does well. He honors the past, takes some of that stuff, gives it to you, makes it feel fresh, makes it feel new. Really the best writer DC's got writing for them right now, that is producing monthly books on a consistent basis. We got the new Queen from Hive. I kind of like that. She's like, like your stepper wife kind of type character. Nice use of the word balloons, and the lettering on that's really dope. looks like honeycomb, and the lettering kind of has like a little chaotic vibe to it. Even dripping here, the honey off of the word balloon. All her little minions are creepy as fuck. Just a really, really great first issue. I cannot wait to see what we get next. I think this might be some of my favorite Howard Porter. I mean, I became a fan of his on Justice League with Grant Morrison. Obviously he did a lot of Flash with Jeff Johns. He did some Flash with Joshua Williamson as well. Really, what's not only is the writing good, art, the coloring, the lettering, but the story is really, really interesting, and the dynamic of is Dinah telling Ollie about this because her and Ollie are in a relationship, and she's in the Justice League. So how's that going to affect her outside relationships moving forward? Working with Slade, who has often been times viewed as a villain. There's a line right here that I really loved when questioned why he's doing it. He says he's dying, and then you get this moment where Dinah's like, Slade, and she's about to say something, and then he's like, gotcha, never been healthier. So like that's the snappy dialogue that you can expect. All of Williamson's stories are like that, whether he's writing Barry Allen or he's writing Bruce Wayne or he's writing Damian Wayne. All of his characters are just, he gets their voices down so well. Again, I can't say how excited I am to see what this series, what comes from this. Deathstroke Inc. is not a title that I was clamoring for. But you put Williamson, you put Howard Porter on a book, and you put these two characters together, I'm here for it. And I cannot wait to see what we get moving forward. I definitely think this is going to be a series that's going to be a blast to read. It doesn't feel like it's going to be super heavily convoluted in terms of connecting to the overall DCU. I mean, we have them in space, coming soon. I love these kind of pages. I don't know what this is, if this is like some sort of like House of Mystery or something like that. And then this last panel with Damian Wayne saying you killed him. So obviously there's going to be a lot of cool stuff to come in this series, and I highly, highly recommend this book. Great first issue. Definitely check it out. Next up, gonna talk Inferno. Hickman's swan song in the X line. Now, I could have done a whole episode talking about Hickman's X-Men and how kind of upset that it's done. Reading this felt sad. Knowing that like it feels like it's going to be rushed. We're not going to totally get the ending I think that Hickman had planned. I'll briefly talk about a little bit of this. The whole thing with House and Powers. If you haven't been reading X-Men, then definitely don't pick this up. Definitely go read the House and Powers of X. Then read, at least read Hickman's X-Men to kind of get an idea for what's going on. But, X-Men can't die. And Moira McTaggart was revealed as a mutant, spoiler alert. And she lives multiple lives. She's essentially on her 10th life. That's the whole thing. Mystique is trying to bring back Destiny, which is, her significant other. And they can't because Destiny knows about Moira. It's a whole thing with that. And Moira has been kind of kept in seclusion. I'll kind of jump into it. Valerio Sheedy is the artist. David Curiel is the colorist. Joe Sabino is the letterer. Tom Muller is the design for all this. So we jump in, and what I can only assume is Magneto and Xavier are being resurrected. Emma Frost is the one that had to do it. Usually Professor X is. We have the Orcus stuff with Nimrod, all that, the Forge. Like there's a lot. If you're not, this is not the issue to jump in. Like there's a lot going on. Hickman does his charts, his all this stuff, this extra information that he gives you. Don't skip over it. Definitely read it. But this is kind of interesting because the X-Men go to the Orcus, talks about like the X-Force, Magneto trying to take it down, and we see mission failure, result unknown, and then result unknown for some of these as well. This is blacked out, so we don't know what that mission is. And obviously, X-Men go on this mission to take out Nimrod, and they're destroyed. And kind of get a little bit more of that stuff. Again, I'm not gonna try to unpack this issue. This is something I would love to go over with Dylan because him and I both really love X-Men, and there's a lot to talk about here. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to talk about this specific issue, especially if you haven't been reading X-Men. I would have to literally talk about the entire line and kind of get everybody up to date so that I could give you the information. So I'll kind of give you a brief look through of this, because it was by far probably my second favorite book of the week. We'll get into my favorite book of the week right after this. But we're getting more of the backstory with Moira, Destiny, and Mystique. A lot of speculation on this series is or Inferno, is that Mystique wants to watch the world burn for them keeping Destiny and not resurrecting her this entire time. She's constantly saying, when are you going to resurrect her? They give Mystique a mission, and if she completes it, then they'll resurrect her, knowing that she's going to fail. This dialogue between Moira and Destiny really elevates this tension between them and why Moira does not want her resurrected and kind of fears her. I already kind of forgot which life she's living at this point, but I think she hasn't lived her 10th life. So, Destiny kind of gives her the ultimatum, like, you need to help your people, because in this particular life, Moira has created a cure for mutants. And Destiny hates that. What she does to Moira it's horrific. Basically, if she doesn't help mutants, then she's gonna be killed in a probably more horrific way than they do here. They burn her alive so that she can remember what it feels like failing to change, failing to do what they want her to do. So Moira, okay, yeah, that's right. So this was her third life. So this is all the way now into the present. We're in the 10th life, and she's been supposed to be kept hidden, and she she gets out into the world, and she's doing whatever it is that she's doing that we still aren't made aware of. Get a little bit more of the Orcus stuff. Get what I call the Golden Girls who stole the technology for the gateways. Back on Krakoa, we have some dialogue between Xavier and Magneto with Moira, calling her out, saying, "We know you left," and this is some great stuff. The scenes between Xavier, Magneto, and Moira, and how they don't listen to her, and how she's frustrated because she knows what they need to do in order to survive, man versus machine, mutant versus machine. They bring up the thought of, well, what if we were to not go against the machines and kind of join forces with them? This is a great issue. Not something you should pick up if you haven't been reading X-Men, because you will be completely lost. I at first thought this was going to be the midway point to Hickman's run, but this is the last thing he's writing, unless there's something that is, they're holding back and not announcing. But art is great in here. This has definitely been one of my favorite eras of X-Men, next to Grant Morrison's. One more spoiler. I'll give you a second to turn it off. Okay, I'm going to tell you now. She wants them to make it so that Destiny can never be cloned, never brought back to life. And Xavier and Magneto do just that. And I'm going to flip. We're going to see something. We're going to see something that takes place at the end. It's pretty fucking crazy. If you don't want to be spoiled by this, I would suggest maybe skip over a couple minutes of the video until I talk about the next issue. But, Cyclops steps down as the head of the captains, and we see Bishop is going to take over. This is where they also have to get Mystique off the council. And we see Psylocke is becoming a new captain. And they're suggesting that maybe the council members don't stay on forever. Maybe they switch it up. It's a burden too heavy, too much to bear. We see that, there's still a council member seat open. Mystique has the perfect candidate. It's somebody that is shocking to a lot of people. Mr. Sinister obviously thinks it's hilarious. It's Destiny. So, I mean, what's going to take place next? I don't have a fucking clue. But this has been a wild ride, the Hickman era of X-Men. So much cool stuff to come from it. A lot of good series. Some not my favorite, but for the most part, I think it's been more hit than miss. Jerry Duggan is now writing the X-Men proper. And I'm excited to see what they got moving forward. I definitely I'll stick around for a little while and give it a shot once Hickman leaves. But Hickman was what drew me back, so it's really sad to see him go. But we got 3 more issues of this, so who knows what he's got cooking up his sleeve. So definitely recommend this book if you have been reading X-Men. If you haven't been reading X-Men, go pick it up now. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's probably been the best Marvel X-Men stuff in over 10 years. And then definitely read this book as well. Last book I'm going to talk about, kind of sad because I didn't realize it was a 2-issue series. For some reason, I thought it was going to be like 6 issues, but this is the conclusion to the Sandman Lock and Key crossover. Just as good as the first issue was, the second issue was even better. I had to go with the J.H. Williams cover. I'm a huge J.H. Williams mark. Anything he does, anything he puts his name on, I want. So this is so good. If you haven't read Sandman or Lock and Key, I don't know what you're waiting for. Both amazing series. Sandman's about to be adapted on Netflix. Lock and Key was adapted. Didn't watch it yet because I heard mixed reviews on it, so I'm kind of waiting until maybe there's a couple seasons and then I'll check it out. This is such a great companion piece to both series. And, let's just get right into it. We got Joe Hill, Gabriel Rodriguez for the creative team, Jay Photos is the colorist, and Sean Lee is the letterer. So there was Jack Locke had died. That was all the stuff that took place in the first issue. His sister Mary is trying to save his soul and heal her father's, broken heart at the same time. So there was a lot of shit going on. She goes to the house of the guy that trapped Morpheus. The son of that guy has the tools of Sandman, the helm, the pouch of sand, and the ruby of power. So she uses those, enters the dream world, meets Lucian, or looks for Lucian in the library, but is greeted by the Corinthian who is posing as Lucian. So, it's just so fucking cool. I don't really want to spoil this too much. I'm just going to show you a couple things that were really cool about this particular issue. It's just so many callbacks to the Sandman universe. Corinthian is one of the most horrific villains in comics. I think that it was so fitting to have him in here. This takes place in, I think, early 1900s. So I think like 1913, I think it says. It's right around 1913. So she's there. She uses the helm, all this stuff to banish the Corinthian. This also takes place before any of the Sandman volumes that you read, because Morpheus at this point in time is still trapped. Still hasn't gotten his helm back. Still hasn't gone to collect all the things that were taken from him. She finds Lucian, gives him his eye, uses the sand, gives him his eyes back, and asks for their help on how to get into hell. Sees that there's a key. All locks know how to make keys, so she has the brilliant idea to replicate the key to hell, because the key to hell, whoever holds it, has dominion and power within, and everybody has to obey them. So right now Lucifer has it, right? But she goes, leaves the dream world, gets her key back from the kid, from Alex Burgess, and decides to go home and make the key. We get a little bit of some of the stuff that we all know from the Locke and Key series in this room. She makes a mold of the exact key, takes that key. After making the key, she does a spell. And this is where I lost my shit. We have Etrigan the demon. Before he is a rhyming demon, which I believe hold more power in hell. And she says, if you help me, that basically she will make him a rhymer. And he recognizes the key as the real deal, not a forgery of by any means. What ensues, them going into hell, they go to we get a little guest appearance from Lucifer, and he calls her out and basically says that there's no way that that's the key. and challenges her to fight for her brother's soul. So much going on. She finds her brother. Eventually, she is able to save his soul. It's just like so much stuff in the background, little Easter eggs. I just think that this was such a great idea. It fits so well, so seamlessly. I just wish that it lasted longer because we kind of get a different version of, I don't know, Lucifer feels a little bit different than he was in Sandman. Etrigan is a little bit paler. He's not as like yellow as I normally see him, but it's just cool to see the crossover between not just the Sandman stuff, but we get a DC character, which for the most part, except for the first volume, Sandman didn't really cross over too much with the main DCU. Etrigan finally, getting the promotion in terms of the level of demon he is. Lucifer is thwarted, and everything she set out to accomplish was done. And not your typical, don't typically get a happy ending in either Sandman or Locke Key, but we get that here. Kind of interesting how it all loops around too. The key that she made became the key to hell. So that's why it wasn't recognized as a forgery, because it loops around and we have Lucifer before he gets banished to hell with the key that he received from Mary. Just really, really dope fucking ending, man. I think it's really... it's a shame that it's only 2 issues, but at the same time, I'm glad it didn't, stretch it out and try to, give too much filler in there. We even have an appearance by Death, one of my all-time favorite characters. I highly recommend it. Go pick it up. It is phenomenal. Go pick up Inferno. Go pick up Deathstroke Inc. as well. And Batman vs. Bigby, A Wolf in Gotham. These are my picks for the week. By far my favorites. There was a bunch of other good stuff that came out this week, but these are the ones that I recommend picking up. Number ones with the exception of a number 2. Not sure what I'm going to read next week. I'm just going to keep it open-ended. Whatever I read that I really think is something I want to talk about, that's what will be on the episode. And if you're not already following us, make sure you follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at The Comic Lounge. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. Hit the bell icon so you're notified every time a new vid goes up. And on that note, I'm out.